The North Korean government severely restricts two fundamental freedoms: the freedom of movement and access to information. For most North Koreans, direct exposure to the outside world is extremely limited. They have no access to satellite internet, social media, or unrestricted communication beyond the country's borders. But does this mean that they have absolutely no access to foreign information? Can they use modern technology? Can they travel abroad? And how widely are foreign languages spoken in North Korea? In this video, we'll explore these questions and uncover the realities behind these common assumptions. Annyeong! I'm Lisa and welcome to Chosun Chronicles. In this and the next few videos, we're going to break down on some of the most common stereotypes about North Korea. Some of these are entirely true, some have a grain of truth but are often oversimplified, and others are outright myths shaped by the country's secrecy and isolation. But before we begin, I want to make a quick disclaimer. What I share here is based on my personal experience in North Korea and the years of studying the country. However, North Korea is a highly controlled and secretive society, and the reality of life there can vary in ways that outsiders may never fully understand. My perspective may differ from those of others who have spent time or lived in North Korea, as well as from diverse experience of North Koreans themselves. So if you're ready, let's dive in. North Korea is often described as one of the most cloaked societies in the world. The North Korean government imposes strict control over all civil and political liberties, including freedom of information. Ordinary citizens live in an information vacuum, as access to comprehensive knowledge about the outside world is considered a serious threat by the regime. The North Korean government maintains an absolute monopoly on information and prohibits all independent media, fully aware of consequences that may arise if people learn, for example, that their capitalist Korean neighbors live far more prosperously than they do. However, the notion that North Koreans have no awareness about the outside world is also misleading. It will be inaccurate to claim that North Koreans have never read, watched, or listened to foreign content. So in this part, I want to challenge this widely held stereotype of North Korea's absolute information isolation while acknowledging the complexities of the situation. It's no surprising fact that North Koreans are allowed access only to heavily restricted and state-approved information. As discussed previously, the historical narrative has been rewritten to glorify the Kim family and justify their rule. For example, North Korean propaganda claims that the Korean War was initiated by the evil American imperialists, with Kim Il-sung portrayed as a heroic defender of the nation. But despite such distortions, North Koreans do have access to world history, whether through education, books, or documentaries. Many assume that ordinary North Koreans are unaware of major historical events such as the collapse of the Soviet Union or dissolution of Yugoslavia. This is simply not true. North Koreans do know which countries exist and which no longer do. As in any other society, level of knowledge depended on education and personal curiosity. I've personally met many intelligent North Koreans who were well versed in historical events, as long as their understanding did not directly contradict the government's propaganda. North Korean state media does not report only on domestic affairs or government achievements. It also covers international news, although in a highly selective manner. While North Koreans may not have access to latest global gossip, they are informed about major world events such as elections in the United States, military conflicts, revolutions, and natural disasters. For instance, the North Korean media informed its citizens about the recent developments in South Korea regarding Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law and followed impeachment. However, given the absence of a free press, all news is filtered to reinforce state ideology. The media portrays enemy nations as corrupt and failing, while presenting North Korea and its allies as strong and resilient. This pattern is not unique to North Korea. Many countries use media to promote national narratives, but in North Korea it is taken to an absolute. For example, when reporting on natural disasters abroad, North Korean media accurately provides casualty figures. However, when disasters strike North Korea, the full extent of the damage and human suffering is rarely disclosed. If the country were to report the actual numbers, people might start questioning whether the government truly prioritizes their well-being and why it allowed such hardships to occur. North Koreans are known to be film fans. In 1987, Radio Pyongyang claimed that the average North Korean visited cinema 21 times per year. While these numbers are hard to verify, testimonies from defectors suggest that people typically go to the cinema 15 to 18 times per year. North Korean films and music largely revolve around themes of revolutionary enthusiasm, glorifying workers, soldiers, and the ruling family. However, foreign content, mostly from socialist or post-socialist countries, is also available, while it aligns with this state ideology. North Koreans may not know global pop culture icons like Harry Potter or Queen, but they do have limited exposure to Western music. For example, one of the most beloved foreign songs in North Korea is Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On. I heard North Koreans singing this song several times, but I'm not really sure whether they watched the film this song is coming from. Soviet-era music is widely recognized, and North Korean television broadcasts recordings of Russian or Chinese concerts dedicated mostly to traditional values like the Day of Family or Children. Moreover, Russian choirs and artistic performances frequently tour North Korea. Many Soviet-era themes such as The Irony of Fate and Office Romance are aired on North Korean television. BBC documentaries can also be rented from special stores, and a few Disney cartoons and songs are available, though heavily censored. Young North Koreans in particular enjoy Chinese historical dramas, though with romantic or erotic scenes edited out. And even Kim Jong-il himself had an obsession with cinema which led to the production of a vast number of North Korean films under his leadership, even to the extent of orchestrating kidnappings to enhance the country's film industry. A devoted fan of foreign films like the James Bond series, Kim wanted North Korea to produce movies that could rival those of its capitalist adversaries. In the 1970s, he ordered the abduction of renowned South Korean director Shin Sang-ok and his ex-wife actress Cho Yeon-hee, forcing them to direct and star in productions that aligned with North Korea's ideological goals. Under Shin's direction, North Korean cinema saw significant artistic and technical improvements. His 1985 drama Salt even received international recognition, an extremely rare achievement for North Korean films. Fortunately, in 1983, abducted Choi and Shin managed to escape and find asylum in the United States. Kim Jong-il also established the Pyongyang International Film Festival, held once in 2 years, and showcasing films from countries such as Germany, India, Iran, Syria, China, and Russia. Although the festival was halted due to COVID-19 restrictions, it's expected to resume soon. Another widespread stereotype, especially among South Koreans, that I want to discuss in the same framework of information isolation is that most North Koreans like watching South Korean dramas and that these shows influence their worldview. While it is true that some North Koreans, particularly those living near the Chinese border, have access to smuggled South Korean content, the extent of this phenomenon is often exaggerated. In North Korea, distributing or consuming South Korean media is strictly illegal. Those caught watching or selling such kind of content face severe punishment. The influx of smuggled South Korean media increased in the early 2000s with the proliferation of video players and recorders. South Korean dramas were popular during Kim Jong-il's rule and the early years of Kim Jong-un's leadership. However, since 2018, Kim Jong-un has intensified crackdowns on malicious foreign influence, increasing surveillance, and imposing harsher penalties. In December 2020, the government enacted the law on rejecting reactionary thought and culture, to reinforce ideological purity by blocking foreign cultural influence, particularly from South Korea. Under North Korea's criminal code, anyone who imports, distributes, or possesses foreign media featuring decadent, corrupt, or obscene content faces up to 2 years of labor. Simply watching or listening to unauthorized foreign media can result in up to 2 years of forced labor. Occasionally, reports emerge claiming that individuals caught watching South Korean dramas have been executed. However, these claims remain unverified, as neither escapists nor anonymous sources within North Korea have confirmed such incidents. Currently, most North Koreans who watch South Korean content do so by purchasing illegal copies from black market distributors near the Chinese borders. Obviously, members of country's elite likely have easier access to such content. However, assuming that the experiences of escapees who either lived near the borders or belonged to the privileged families reflect the reality for all North Koreans is also misleading. There is no possibility to conduct a poll within the country and ask North Koreans whether they like South Korean dramas or not. It is also questionable whether South Korean dramas can fundamentally change North Koreans' perceptions. Many North Koreans are aware that state propaganda tends to embellish the reality, and they do not necessarily take South Korean content to face value. And the deeper case government relentless portrayal of South Korea as a rotten puppet state and portrayal of North Korea as a pure and independent culture may also raise skepticism about the truthiness of South Korean media. While exposure to foreign media might spark curiosity, it does not automatically lead to political dissent or a desire to defect. North Korea remains one of the most isolated countries in the world, but the notion that its citizens are completely unaware of global affairs is an oversimplification. While their access to foreign media is limited and tightly controlled, it does exist to some extent. However, in my personal opinion, their exposure to foreign content is minimal and has little impact on shaping their worldview. I also believe that the idea that South Korean soft power, particularly through distribution of movies, can inspire change in North Korea is often overstated. Even in countries with unrestricted internet access and free exposure to different perspectives, many people still can align with the state propaganda, no matter how absurd and irrational it may seem. Given that North Koreans live in an environment fully surrounded by the government's narrative, I personally think that South Korean dramas alone are unlikely to significantly influence North Koreans' mindset. So we talked about access to information, but what about the tools that allow people to access it? There is a common stereotype that North Korea is a technological wasteland, an isolated country with no internet and outdated gadgets. But is it really the case? Spoiler, not exactly. According to Pyongyang's Central Bureau of Statistics in 2017, 98 of North Korean households had a television, 68 had a mobile phone, but only 19 had a computer. So the government actively promotes the use of IT technologies, but only under strict control. The 1990s marked the beginning of North Korea's domestic computer production, leading to the development of Red Star operating system. Designed not only for functionality but also for surveillance, Red Star operating system ensures that citizens cannot engage in any anti-state activities on their computers. Every North Korean computer, smartphone, and digital device is required to run Red Star operating system. All computers must be registered with the police, who have authority to inspect homes to verify compliance. Despite this, some people, still mostly elites, still manage to smuggle in computers from China bypassing this system. In response, authorities have intensified crackdowns on those using unregistered devices. So what makes Red Star operating system so crucial to the regime? The system has several built-in mechanisms to control information flow and prevent access to foreign anti-socialist content. First of all files must carry an official digital signature from state authorities. This means users cannot share documents, presentations, and other materials without prior approval. Secondly, USB use is also restricted on these computers to prevent data transfer. The last but most fascinating one is that the system is rumored to take automatic screenshots at unpredictable intervals, which security officials can review. These screenshots cannot be deleted, leaving users unaware of when they are being monitored. Through these measures, Red Star operating system serves as a digital barrier, keeping North Koreans isolated from outside information while ensuring state control over all computer activity. In 2013, during the early years of Kim Jong-un's rule, he set a national goal of building a knowledge economy by developing scientific and technological talent. Since then, North Korea has made significant investments in IT and biotechnology, transforming computers from a luxury into a marker of a relative prosperity. The country began actively cultivating computer experts, and today students increasingly use computers for both education and entertainment. Schools and various sectors reportedly rely on technology more than ever before. The same situation was when I studied in North Korea. All North Korean students who lived in the dormitory had their own laptops and PC. This strategic push for IT development has also benefited the regime in another way. North Korea has produced some of the world's most skilled and dangerous hackers. One of the most notorious hacker groups is Lazarus Group, which is believed to be controlled by North Korea's primary intelligence bureau. The group has been linked to the WannaCry ransomware attack, which affected over 200,000 computers worldwide. The group also commits cyber attacks on international banks and crypto platforms, stealing over $1 billion annually. Lazarus Group was also behind the infamous 2014 Sony picture hack, which was allegedly in retaliation for the film The Interview. The internet as we know it remains completely off-limits to ordinary North Koreans. But some privileged elites have access to international websites. It's estimated that fewer than 10,000 people in North Korea can access the global internet. A large portion of these users are likely foreign diplomats and some high-ranking officials. For the rest of the population, there is Kwanmyo, North Korea's state-controlled intranet launched in early 2000s. This network hosts several thousand websites, allowing users to read state-run news, check the weather, access educational resources, and North Korea's equivalent of Google, which is called Naenara. Despite strict internet control, mobile phone usage in North Korea has been steadily increasing. As of January 2024, mobile connections were equivalent to 28.7% of the total population. Over the past year, the number of mobile connections grew by around 200,000. Recently, authorities introduced a new smartphone model called Samtaesong. It includes standard features such as a camera, front camera, a video call app, and even 4G support. However, North Koreans cannot use mobile phones to contact the outside world. The country's telecommunications system simply does not support international calls. Those who manage to obtain imported devices and SIM cards to contact, for example, their escaped relatives, face severe punishment if caught. Even brief conversations with the outside world can be considered acts of treason and espionage. As I have repeatedly emphasized that the regime views any unauthorized communication with the outside world as a direct threat to its control, fearing that exposure to foreign content could undermine state propaganda. When Kim Jong-un first came to power, many believed that as technology advanced, it would naturally lead to information flow and change. But North Korea's leadership once again turned the game in its favor. Yes, laptops, smartphones, and digital networks exist in North Korea, but their use is highly restricted and closely monitored. Rather than opening doors to the outside world, technology in North Korea has become yet another tool for control. So we've discussed North Korea's strict control over information. But what about travel? A common belief is that North Koreans are completely forbidden from leaving their country or traveling abroad. While some stereotypes that I mentioned above about North Korea are usually exaggerated, this one is actually understated. It's not just that North Koreans are unable to travel internationally. They are also restricted from moving within their own country. Even leaving one's home region requires special permission from the authorities. Let's start from the basics. Who can travel abroad? Only a select few North Koreans are allowed to leave the country. This group primarily includes diplomats, athletes, recruited workers, and students. There have been some reports of North Korean tourists visiting Russia or China, but many experts suspect these so-called tourists were actually disguised workers, as North Korean overseas labor has been officially banned under UN Security Council sanctions. North Koreans who attempt to leave the country illegally and are caught face severe consequences, including torture, forced labor, and life imprisonment. So the regime also needs to control citizens who experienced life abroad. The number of diplomats is relatively small, and most come from elite backgrounds, meaning that they are already aware of global affairs. However, thousands of North Korean workers who return home after years overseas pose a bigger challenge. To prevent ideological contamination, these workers must undergo intensive re-education sessions, a kind of special ideological classes. So upon their return, they are subjected to propaganda and tested for their loyalty to the regime. In North Korea, internal movement as well is tightly controlled and regulated by the government. Citizens are required to obtain official permits to move between the regions, and unauthorized travel can lead to penalties. So many people in North Korea never leave their hometowns. The country's poor infrastructure also discourages travel. Roads are often in bad condition due to limited traffic, making long-distance travel difficult. This strict control is another means for the regime to maintain surveillance of a population and prevent the spread of information. That's why I found TV series Crash Landing on You particularly amusing. The scene where the main character speeds down a well-maintained highway between Pyongyang and a border city is especially unrealistic. In reality, such freedom of movement is unthinkable for ordinary North Koreans. Now let's move to the final stereotype. Since North Koreans have limited opportunities to travel abroad or interact with foreigners, they do not learn or speak foreign languages. But does this hold up in reality? In fact, studying a foreign language is mandatory for all North Korean students starting from elementary school. Since Kim Jong-un came to power, foreign language education has been emphasized even more, with students now required to begin learning at an early age. Today, the most popular foreign language in North Korea is Chinese. Up until late 1990s, Chinese was rarely studied, but as China's economy grew and its influence over North Korea expanded, so did interest in the language. Since the early 2000s, Chinese has even suppressed English in popularity. Traditionally, North Korea's foreign language education focused on Russian and English, with Russian being particularly dominant until the late 1980s. However, after the Soviet Union collapsed and the trade with Russia declined, the Russian language lost its appeal, and English gradually took its place. Despite this, Russian is still taught in many schools and universities alongside English. Obviously, it's not limited to only three languages. There are other foreign languages that can be learned at the universities, like Japanese or any European ones. From my experience studying in North Korea, I found that many North Koreans could fluently speak at least one foreign language and were learning a second.
Whose English is impressively fluent.
My question is, when was the happiest time of your life as a scientist? Very personal question.
Even when I met North Korean escapees in South Korea, I was often surprised to find that they knew at least the basics of Russian or Chinese, thanks to their school education. However, while everyone is required to study foreign language, not everyone is equally motivated to master one. Students from elite background, those at the top of North Korea's Sonbun social hierarchy, have the greatest incentive. For them, fluency in a foreign language can open doors to prestigious university programs and future careers where they might actually use this skill. Meanwhile, for the average North Korean, learning a foreign language often feels pointless, as they rarely get the chance to use it in daily life. Unless someone becomes a diplomat, government official, or a business person traveling abroad, there are few opportunities to apply their language skills. but still knowing a foreign language in North Korea is considered a mark of prestige. So, as we've seen, some stereotypes about North Korea hold some truth, while others can be exaggerated or false. So, the reality is far more complex, and in many cases, we simply do not have enough information to make comprehensive conclusions. Have you heard any other stereotypes about North Korea that you are curious about? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you in the next part of the video about stereotypes.